Today I'm going to be talking about camera builds, but more specifically for the Blackmagic Pyxis. There's a lot of items that go into building out your rig, but overall the cage tends to be the most important one. There's a lot of other pieces that are involved in a build out, but mostly they are revolving around a singular piece or a couple pieces that makes up the body of the camera. Now, enough time has passed that most major camera manufacturers have come out with a cage for the camera. It did take a little bit longer than normal, but now it's safe to say that everyone who's gonna make a cage for this camera has made one. A little bit of a disclaimer, there's no right or wrong way to build up your camera in the same way that there's no right or wrong cage. It just depends on what you want to use the camera for and what the production needs from a rig. So with that said, let's go over all the things that you need to build out your camera, starting with, most importantly, the cage. Starting off, I chose to go with the XLCS cage. Now, a little bit of a disclaimer again, they did send me this cage, but unlike most other sponsorship situations, I did ask for it. I messaged Will and I had seen his videos on YouTube. I think he runs a really wonderful small company and I loved his design. I wanted to get my hands on it and most importantly, I felt like it actually worked really well for the type of rig that I wanted to personally build out. So when you watch this breakdown, I want you to just understand that my personal opinions about the cage are my own. I'm not being paid to make this video, and most importantly, I was the one who initiated contact because I wanted to talk about this cage in particular. So why did I pick this cage? Overall, I feel like that the FMJ cage from XLCS fits a lot of the production needs that I look for when it comes to a cage. Starting off, it's a full cage. This is one single piece which wraps around the entire camera and includes a back plate, which is optional. It just kind of covers the ports and gives a little bit of extra rigidity, as well as some protection for all of the IO on the back. A lot of manufacturers opted to go with a top plate and a bottom plate, and some of them connect, but not all of them. That being said, there's no right or wrong answer. I prefer a full cage, but if you like a little bit of a lighter rig or you want to be able to dismantle your rig in various ways, then I can understand why you may go with that. I'll address this later on in the video, but the full cage is both a good and a bad thing. For me personally, it's more of a good thing, but that might vary for the type of production that you need your camera to work for. So what comes with a full cage? Well, I think when it comes to this cage specifically, there's a certain amount of rigidity that you get. This is a piece of hunkin' metal. This thing is super robust. It has a bunch of really wonderful features on it. It's so mountable, so riggable. I just really can't ask for anything more. It's just basically 4 cheese plates stacked on top of one another, but done in a really, really well-designed and artful way. There's not a lot that I would really change on how this cage is designed. Next, I'm gonna go over some of the key features of the XLCS cage. To start things off, let's talk about PL support, because when it comes to a production style camera, you're gonna be running PL lenses most of the time. As the Blackmagic doesn't have autofocus, it's unlikely that you're gonna be running some kind of AF lens on here anyway. So a lot of cages that come out for the Pyxis I find don't either have PL support or very few do. XLCS Designs does have a PL support and it's great. It's low profile, it doesn't get in the way of doing things, and most importantly, it feels very rugged and I feel like the PL mount on the camera is connected, secured, and it doesn't feel flimsy in any kind of way. The actual piece and how it is designed and how it connects, it feels much more durable than other PL supports from other cages. Again, I do want to mention that the Mid 49 cage also does this really well. So these two manufacturers make what I think is the best PL support system for a cage. Moving to the back of the camera, as I mentioned before, there is a back plate that is optional via these 4 screws. That being said, I'm gonna keep it on here most of the time. So this provides some level of safety when it comes to plugging things in, which I really like. It comes with an optional battery cover, which is great. I personally do run the batteries, so I don't have it on here. But yeah, it's fairly straightforward. Everything is accessible easily, and it doesn't get in the way when you want to access things. Moving on to the side of the camera, on the smart side specifically, all of the buttons are accessible. The cage doesn't protrude in such a way where you can't have access to them. The screen, again, no protrusion at all. It doesn't really get in the way. That being said, there is a sun hood that comes with the kit. And while I don't have it on here right now, for sunny situations where I want to see the side of the camera with the screen, it will come in handy. Not that it's that important, but it also has some level of rigidity to it, meaning I'm not worried if I were to bump the side of the camera on something accidentally. I feel like the screen and all of my buttons, dials are protected to a greater degree than on other cage systems. Looking to the other side of the camera, it is basically one giant cheese plate. The kit does come with the ability to attach a SSD if you so choose. However, the way I'm having it is just as is. I put a rosette on the side and I don't really run anything extra. If I wanted to add any kind of cable management, I could do so on here or on the top. As you can see, there is 1/4-20 and 1/8 all over this entire camera body, and many of them have locating pins, which is fantastic. Not to mention, on the front of the camera, there are 2 cold shoe mounts, which is extremely helpful if you want to run different small audio attachments like a DJI mic or the Rode Wireless Go's. You can put that there. You could also run a shotgun microphone straight off the top, which is fantastic. And overall, you know, the cage is exactly what you'd think it would be. It's an entire cage which has multiple mounting options on every single nook and corner that you can think of. A lot of them, like I said, have locating pins, which means that they are going to stay sturdy. And you know, this is just a really robust design. It doesn't get much better than this. One unique feature about the FMJ kit, which is what I have here, is that it comes with rails that stick off the front of the camera. This is a fantastic design, and it allows for a fizz unit to be attached without the necessary need for a base plate. It goes on the top of the camera and on the bottom, so depending on where you like to run your fizz unit or a manual follow focus, you can do so. This is great because at the same time, while I wish that there was a proprietary baseplate that had come with the camera, I'm really happy to say that the rails provided are robust and it doesn't feel like they're going to get flimsy, as they are 3/8 screw-on with the rails sticking out at 2 different lengths. Now that we've gone over the entire cage, I want to quickly touch on a subject that I think is important, but not necessarily is about the product itself, but more about the company that you're buying the product from. XLCS is fantastic. Will is a wonderful owner and was really easy to get in contact with and navigate sending me the cage. From what I can see online, a lot of people really like him, and it seems like as a smaller company goes, he's very communicative and interactive. This is important because if something breaks, if you need a replacement, if you need anything done differently, or you want to add another part that you didn't have, customer service is a very, very, very important element when it comes to buying a product. And I feel like with XLCS, you are getting just that. This is not the first cage that he has made, by the way. He's made cages for the original Blackmagic camera. He's done this for a little bit now, and I feel like this is by far his most robust and well thought out cage to date. I'm happy to say that I have really no issues with how he's designed this thing, and overall, this is a fantastic system. Okay, one other thing, I just want to talk about aesthetics. I know that's not the most important aspect of a cage, but let's be honest, we all care about it. This cage looks great. The FMJ title is totally fitting, as the front of this camera very much feels incredibly tactical, for lack of a better word. It actually reminds me a little bit of like Star Wars in a strange way, with the great systems on it. I just think it looks great. And it totally protects the front of the camera, which is an added bonus. I mean, it's basically a 1/4-20 and 3/8 cage, which you may or may not like. However, I think this is a fantastic design. And when I see pictures of it, it just looks awesome. It looks like a very, very, very professional and very sturdy rig. So I only really have 2 cons with this system. And again, they're not really cons. It's more just like, I wish that there was another option available, and maybe there will be in the future. I wish that there was a kit available that came with a top handle and a proprietary base plate. Now, this is not mandatory whatsoever. You can buy basically any base plate or top handle you want, as I have. And that is one of the things that actually this cage does so well, which is that it's very modular. You can build this system out however you see fit and make it work. Because of all the mounting points and where they're located, you can really make any kind of rig work with this cage, which I think is its greatest asset, is that it is just very versatile. That being said, if XLCS comes out with a base plate and some kind of quick release system with a dovetail, I would love it. I would totally buy one myself. Same with a top handle, maybe something really robust that has 2 different mounting points. One of my biggest complaints is it feels like a lot of the top handles for the Pyxis, other than the one that comes from Blackmagic themselves, only has 1 point of contact. I would love to see one that has 2. So that's my first you know, I guess it's more of an ask rather than a con, but the second thing on my list is I sort of wish that there was an option for this cage where the top plate and the bottom plate were the same, but the side of the camera was attached with 2 screws, like one here, one here, one here, one here, or I guess 8 screws, or potentially 2 if that works as well on each side. And then you can take off the sides and have the top and the bottom if you want to run a very light rig. I don't think this is totally necessary, but sometimes it is nice, especially if something were to break on the cage, you could then replace that specific piece. Again, totally a nitpicky thing, is more of a, it'd be cool if it was an option type thing. However, personally myself, I will probably always go with a full cage. I really like this design, but I can see other customers wanting to have a little bit more modularity to the weight and the build of the camera. So maybe that's something in the future that we can see, who knows? Again, just wanna say, very nitpicky thing and really is not totally necessary considering that there are other cage systems that do this. I think this one was more designed to be one solid piece. So that about brings me to the end of this video. And I guess I'll just conclude by saying that overall, this is a fantastic cage. I would recommend this to anyone who's looking to buy a Pyxis and does not want to spend, you know, $800 or $900 on building out a cage system. I think after buying the cage itself and then picking up the other necessary pieces, I think I spent about $500 in total, but got total modularity with how I wanted to build this out. And I'm really happy to say that this is a high quality product that I think totally stands in the same ballpark as something like Mid-49 or Small Rig or Tilta. I mean, everyone makes well-designed products these days, but I don't think that because this is a smaller company that you are losing out on any features. In fact, I think you gain a lot of extra accessories with this kit that you don't get with the others, which end up being add-ons you have to buy. Also, like I mentioned, just, you know, they're a smaller company. And I think because of that, you're gonna get a much more personalized experience with working with Will. And not to mention just, I think that supporting smaller businesses is important. And I think that as far as, you know, a new player in the camera accessories game, they're doing a fantastic job. Okay, that about wraps up this video. I'm happy to say that this cage will be staying on this camera for the foreseeable future. I love everything about it and I'm super happy to have it on my camera now. Let me know what you think though. Do you think the XLCS cage is a good option? What other options have you gone with and why? I'd love to hear some conversation. What do you think of the other manufacturers' cages for the Pyxis? I think that there's some pros and cons to all of them, but overall, I think that everyone's got a different thing they like. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. See ya.